Produced by Podcast Architects.
Welcome back to another episode of The Path Forward. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Rick Fernandez, where we talk about innovation and education. And today I have some very special guests. Part of our leadership team at Anser Advisor, I have Bryan, our Chief Executive Officer, and Adam Shaw, our Chief Delivery Officer. So just to throw it out there, if you don't see another episode past this, it means I've done probably a poor job and it's not gone like I needed it to go. So we'll just see how it goes. So hopefully there'll be an episode after this one. So guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Glad to be here.
Well, good. So I want to jump right in because I got this question and 2 days ago, Adam asked me, what would your colleagues say or some of your superintendent friends say? What is Anser Advisory? So Bryan, I'll kick it off with you. Like, what do we do? Who do we serve?
That's a really good question. We are a consulting firm, but what we really are aiming to do is to help deliver the missions of our clients. Often that comes in the form of helping them out with capital projects or programs and executing what they need to do around their essential infrastructure. But it goes beyond that, and it also ties to helping out to execute whatever that underlying mission may be, whether it be in education or whether it be Federal Department of Defense or whether it be transportation authorities or water utilities or energy utilities. That's really what we do.
Awesome. So the Chief Delivery Officer, I got to ask, since both of you are here, do you think y'all have the same definition of what the Chief Delivery Officer does? First of all, who named it?
That was me.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I'm curious to know, what was your vision for that position?
Sufficiently nebulous that it could mean all things.
Is that a good description of it?
That's how the accountability works.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, Chief Delivery Officer is really there. Adam's role is to really be the conduit, both internally and externally, for us being able to deliver our services to our clients and all things that encompasses, which, joking aside, can be a lot of different things on a daily or hourly basis.
So how did you find Mr. Shaw? How did you find that talented?
Oh, that's a long story.
Is it?
Don't have enough time for it.
Has it got a little bit of twists and turns in it?
There's some twists and turns in there. We'll keep it the brief abridged version. We met back in the middle of 2020?
Yep.
I think it was. And really just had a number of really good conversations around similar philosophies and seeing similar opportunities of how we could continue to bring together some of the best and brightest across the country to be part of an organization helping to deliver client missions.
So from a standpoint of how do you know when to take a leap and take the Chief Delivery Officer position? What about Bryan? What about Anser? What about the vision led you to say, you know what, this is a good move for me?
Well, I think one of the most compelling things to me was the fact that the business was founded in 2018 and had been on a very aggressive trajectory of growth, and that was something I wanted to be part of. You know, in like middle of 2020, there was a lot of challenges that every business was facing, and I really felt at that point that I had to be in a position of being in something that's growing, and it seemed like Bryan, in my exchanges with him, had keyed into something that I had really been wrestling with in my prior role, which was, you know, expertise is one thing, and that will get you so far. Mm-hmm. But connections and relationships and reputation within a particular geography or a particular client can really create immense opportunity to do more in support of their mission. And one of the things that I had kind of been constrained by was not having that base of network within the US, and joining an organization that had been working with various clients for a number of years. It really felt like throwing gas on a fire that was inside me to be able to do more in a more rapid way than the kind of grinding out of ones and twos to add more opportunities.
So I'm always interested in trajectory because I think that's a learning opportunity for me, and I think my colleagues and people that watch feel the same way. And I'm going to ask both of you to kind of talk about your career path. So Bryan, why this work? What like strikes a chord, says this is a great opportunity for me, or this is a why I can find value in this service?
I, I'm going to go with, there's a lot of different reasons for it, but it's really unique to be able to engage across so many different markets and add value across so many different markets. And our whole business is people as well. So not only are we involved in a lot of different organizations, a lot of different communities, and get to know what those organizations are doing and how they're engaging, but then our organization is a people organization, quite literally.
Sure.
Right? All we do is consult. And people are complex, and people are challenging, and people are not the same day to day. And so there's never a dull moment, and there's always an opportunity to continue to grow as a person myself, in working with a lot of other really talented individuals that push me and challenge me. So that's ultimately why.
I think if you'd ask like superintendents or administrators in the school business, the great thing about it is hopefully most of your time is with kids because they're less challenging sometimes than the adults. So we always make that joke, like if I could just spend my time with the kids, their life would be good. Speaking of kids, you started in education. So take me through your career path a little bit and how did we get here?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to, I went to school to study civil engineering, but I actually went to school to try to walk on to a D2 basketball program.
Now we're talking. Now we're in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, happened to be a good engineering program as well. So I went there and I did that. I did walk on. I played a couple years of ball, but then also continued on, got my undergrad in civil engineering. And as I was heading towards graduation and starting to consider what I wanted to do, I came across a company at a career fair that was providing owner's rep services.
Okay.
That's how they described it. And I went, I've never heard of that before. I thought, I'd go do something more specifically in construction or specifically in engineering design. And so as I learned about what an owner's rep role was, it was kind of fascinating to me because the opportunity, that specific opportunity, was actually going to be to go manage some projects for a developer that were hotel projects. I thought that sounded interesting. Probably learn a lot about that. So I launched into it. I also probably took that job, to be perfectly frank, because I was dating my now wife, who I had met at school, and she was a year behind me, and a lot of the other jobs I was looking at were going to take me out of state. And that also combined with, it sounded easier than other things that I was looking at doing. I didn't want to go, design bridges. I knew that.
So let me ask you, do you ever bring that up? It's like, remember that first job I took? That was
No,
for you.
I totally don't, but I probably have more leverage there. That's true. I probably could bring that up. I'm going to make a note of that. I'll try it this weekend. We'll see how that goes.
You didn't hear that from me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So went and took that job. That firm that I joined also did a lot of K-12 work and owner's rep work. And so got introduced to K-12 schools. I left there fairly quickly, actually, after about 18 months, because I thought there was probably an opportunity for me to kind of do this on my own. So I started a consulting firm on my own, had two partners join me over a few years. We did a lot of K-12 owners rep project management in Colorado. And then from there, we were approached by a large publicly traded, or soon to be publicly traded, engineering firm. We decided to join them or merge our firm with theirs. Through that, then continued to grow a program management group there as COO, and then decided to leave and actually focus back on something more related to education at that time, which was a platform that tried to connect teachers with additional supplemental income, which was very kind of close to me because my sister is a teacher. And so did that for a while, couldn't actually make that a business. parlayed what I had done there around some software into building some project budget management software. And then that ultimately led me back into implementing that software for a K-12 school district in Colorado to help them manage their $250 million capital program. Led me back to realizing what I really wanted to be doing was not working with software, but working with people and kind of back into this role. So there've been, I started out with exposure to K-12, but there's been a continual pull back into education kind of throughout my career.
That's interesting because, obviously that's where my passion has always been. And you're right. It's a people business, right? And you got to understand what their needs are and their pain points. And right now there's a lot of pain points in a lot of places, I would say, particularly K-12. Unique experience. I think that's what initially drew me to Anser, is because there's a lot of diverse, talented, unique experiences, right? And as a guy that's looking like what else can be done to help student outcomes, right? And a lot of that is centered on not only the building, but the why and the heart of the building. What do you want out of your facilities? What do you want out of the experience? And I'm jumping over to Adam because I know he has an interesting story, and it's crazy how there's two different stories, but there's a lot of parallel there to give you a great leadership combination, I believe. So Adam, tell us a little bit. And I do want to hear about the koalas. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
All right. So that's no punchline, I should say. There's nothing there. But I studied in college a subject called quantity surveying.
What is that? I have no clue.
It is a British profession that is somewhat of a hybrid between project management and estimating.
Okay.
There's many a British person tried to come to the United States and convert them to quantity surveying and failed. So we'll leave it at that. So I spent the early years of my career measuring blueprints, putting estimates together, and really got to enjoy the construction industry from that particular role, mainly because I have a terribly short attention span, and having to stick with one thing for too long frustrates the hell out of me. So I've been working in this industry to try and keep something that can give me the right doses of excitement and productivity and outcome.
By the way, all the educators are like, yeah, I have some of those in my class right now.
Yeah. Come the financial crisis, I was happily kind of developing through my career. The financial crisis really came as a brick wall in my career path. And I was determined to go around it, go over it, go through it. And I, at the time, was working for a firm that had been acquired by a large engineering company. And there was a lot of turmoil and a lot of frustration in everyone because we'd gone from being a private company to being a publicly listed company. And there's a whole host of things we could talk for hours about what that means. But for me, there was this kind of flag sitting in Australia of a job opening that just happened to fit my expertise in quantity surveying. And I did an application and had my first kind of phone call with the director over there. And he pretty much said, okay, when can you get here? And at that time, with the financial crisis, Australia was really unaffected by everything that we saw here in the US and in Europe. What Australia had done preemptively was actually something called Building the Education Revolution, which was a federally sponsored schools and I guess support facilities building program where they effectively had to build, a couple thousand gym halls, black box theaters, expanded classrooms. And so the construction industry really enjoyed that period of stimulus. And so it was kind of like, when can you get here? So parachuted into Adelaide in South Australia back then and really found a whole bunch of opportunity. Key themes in my career have really been I didn't have familiarity to trade on. I didn't have a network to trade on. I had to very quickly get up to speed to build credibility with my colleagues. And that challenge led me to kind of move fairly rapidly through the organization. There's probably a subtext of, immigrant work ethic as well, and also the laser focus of not having all the other things around me. That isolation actually allowed me to perform.
Right.
And I spent the better part of 7 years in Australia. Met my wife, had our first son, and then in 2015, through working with a client throughout that period, had an opportunity to come support a higher education project over in the US, and looked at my wife and once again said, why the heck not? And that journey then took another experience in building a team from scratch and learning how to lead, that then resulted in my exit in 2021 to join Anser, which is a whole new phase for my career as well.
So when a couple of days ago, I was listening in as the Marcon presentation, and you made a comment about the bullet train. Do you want to talk about a little bit about that? Because I find that very fascinating.
I also have to acknowledge that
Is that yours?
graphic and that concept is courtesy of this gentleman right over here.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But that's okay. I ripped it off, and now
okay.
I wantonly,
Hey, you're talking
spread
about
it across.
educator. We still everything, so no worries.
It's actually just called creative iteration. I think I'm sure I've added something nice to his concept in some manner, and so it's mine now. Now, the bullet train concept for us is really continuing to bring together these two pieces of our business, kind of core two pieces of our business, which is what we call advisory and compliance, which is really more akin to management consulting, and that's where we're going to engage with clients. So in the case of K-12, we would be engaging and engaging around things like organizational structures,
right,
and how can we really set up the organization to continue to fulfill the mission. And there might be systems included within that need to be looked at, and processes that might need to be developed there, and maybe funding considerations that we could help out with. And then there's the other side of our business, which we call the management side of our business, which is really kind of taking that ideation and some of the analytics that come through the front end management consulting. And then the management side is really how do we go support and execution of what that is. So the bullet train is bringing those two pieces together in a fully integrated solution for our various clients. And then also for us as an organization, kind of pointing towards, hey, we're headed in a single combined direction as an organization, and we think we're going to continue to see really positive, rapid growth. But we earn that right,
sure,
right? We earn that right through doing good work with our clients. And that's kind of our aspirations, continue doing really good work and then continuing to be able to grow at the rapid pace we have been as a result of doing that good work.
Yeah, and I can say on top of that, organizationally for us, the bullet train is iconic because if you contrast it to a whole bunch of us sitting on a highway in our individual cars, frustrated at being in congestion, the bullet train is this icon of everyone efficiently ordering themselves in the same direction,
right,
for a higher capacity, higher speed growth. We really see that integration as being both outward facing and internally to our culture is we want to be a high performance, high speed growth vehicle for everyone's careers, not just the organization as a vehicle,
sure,
for corporate growth.
Right.
So one thing that was fascinating for me, because I dive right in when something's, particularly when it's new learning, I dive right in. I try to learn as much as I can. We are growing at a rapid pace, and I guess I'd ask both of you, and Bryan, if you'll kick us off, how do you know what to add, who to add, how they fit, and how do you merge and make sure that the cultures align? And obviously, I've been into new situations, and it takes a while to figure out, okay, where do I fit within the culture, and how do I want to shape the culture? But when you're growing fast like that, how do you continue to shape and mold and choose, okay, this is how we need to add and who we need to add?
The first part is actually kind of one of the questions that you brought up, which is the first part we really focus on is there alignment around culture? And is there alignment around the values? And so that comes in a couple of different forms. There's are we approaching the types of services we want to provide the same way, same level of quality, and that goes for individuals, or that goes for firms that may want to join us to expand our capabilities. Then there's another piece of it, which is, I always call it kind of future alignment.
Okay.
And again, that applies to either an organization joining us or an individual joining us, which is, do they share the same vision of a bullet train? Do they share a same desire? And also, particularly for the individuals joining us, do they see an opportunity to grow their career? Does it fit with what they're looking to do in their lives? Those two pieces, even though sounds very colorful and nice to sit here and chat about, by staying focused on those and then really spending the time and having the conversations and really doing work around what does that look like and what does that mean, points you in a pretty clear direction of what type of folks we want to have join us. In terms of the capabilities that we're bringing to the table, or end markets we're focusing on, those sorts of things, that's really driven by what are our clients needing and how can we add value to them as a trusted advisor. And so it's just listening and being able to listen around what are those things that we could continue to provide or continue to do, what are geographies that we could continue to do it in, and through listening to those signals, then looking to figure out how we execute around that.
I think from a talent standpoint, given how fast we are looking to expand our support of clients, one of the key things is listening is crucial to being a good consultant. But also listening can only get you so far in some complex environments. So in some cases, like K-12, like aviation, we need to bring in talent that have lived in the shoes of the people we're trying to support.
Sure.
So that we can really jump that learning curve and kind of pass the threshold of being someone who is, from a transaction standpoint, able to give you what you ask for. But how do we preempt and understand the problems that you have from a different perspective and give you the support that we, through our collective talents, understand you need to help affect that progress against your mission? That to us is kind of where the goal lies, because doing the work we're asked to do is the easy part. It's what else? What are we not seeing here? What other aspects do we need to triage or support that's going to better affect the outcome for our client? I would say within the individuals that join that mission, one of the things that I look at is, does the idea of a steady state organization fill them with comfort, or does it fill them with anxiety? Because we need people who are going to embrace change, because we're guaranteeing a journey of change. And so those who are looking for things to kind of all be set out neatly and symmetrically and be consistent, that's just not the business we're in, and our aspirations are too big to run at that rate.
There's a really great part of that, though, which is that last time I checked, all of us as we go through life change a whole lot and need a whole lot of change, right? We don't stay static. And so one of the reasons why we want to, as a firm, continue growing as well is that it provides opportunities for individuals to grow their careers with us and for it to be able to change and evolve as that occurs. If we were just going to stay stagnant and not be growing and not be changing, then we're probably not providing a whole lot of opportunities for people to continue to grow their careers and continue to grow as people.
It's fascinating to listen to that, because one of the key things to tease out of, if I could say, a big problem in education is our lack of ability to adapt, right? Adapt quickly enough so that an outcome for a kid is close enough to what they're going to see when they leave us, right? I feel like we're usually 5 to 10 years behind that curve in education, and we do our best, but we miss a lot of that immediate benefit when they leave us, whether it's college or the workforce. Through your experiences, both of you, what can you tease out as the one thing that either companies, clients, what are we getting wrong? What's the one piece of it that if you could help folks with this, it would probably change a lot of the way businesses operate or how successful they are? Is there any one thing? I know that's hard to do, but
I would say in our space, one of the challenges that seems to come up with a number of clients across different sectors is that they often leap to the presumption of a project without actually having mapped the connection between what that project is intended to do in service of their mission. So large institutional clients can tend to have departments built around, we build stuff, we maintain stuff. And so it's kind of commonplace that there's almost just this cycle that people work through. And one of the things that will command interest in our services is, well, we keep doing the same thing and we're not getting the results we want.
right.
And often that focus starts at the project level. So how do we better manage our budget on these projects? We keep getting change orders. We never hit the number. In many cases, the budget overrun is but a symptom of a bigger problem around organizational effectiveness. And that could boil down to who has the delegated authority to do X, Y, Z. And so what we're always trying to do is look at the problem that's staring you in the face is you've got a project problem, as an example. And of course, there's always areas to improve performance. But how did we get to this point? And are there systemic barriers, behaviors, or issues that we need to go look at more closely to affect change at a different level that then will result in an outcome that really better aligns with the mission? In many cases, people are almost operating with blinkers on. You know, this is my job, I build projects, or I hire consultants, or do X, Y, Z. Like any organization, public or private, I think there always has to be this point of taking a step back and saying, are these efforts that we're investing serving our objective, our mission, and even more importantly, what is our vision of where we're trying to get to? I think some people struggle with the conception of what a future state might be because they feel constrained by resource constraints or governance issues, or feeling gummed up in the process. But if you have a clarity of vision that then translates to a set of very measurable objectives, everything can cascade down from that. And that's one of the areas where we often see there's a gap structurally between who is charged with delivering the day-to-day operations, tactical work, versus what is the overall objective here in terms of a outcome for your end user, your client, your student, versus how do we stitch all that together?
Yeah. Anything to add from your perspective on
That was pretty thorough. I'll add.
He delivered
He totally delivered. I'll add a tiny little piece to it, which is that I think that challenge is being true to the organization that you are today and continuing to serve and do what you need to do today and fulfill that current mandate and that current mission, while having a certain amount of focus on where you're heading and what you need to be doing. And I think one thing that is helpful, it's something we've done within our organization, I think it's helpful to think about this in a lot of different ways, is understand that 70% of your time and focus needs to be doing what you do already today. You might kind of mind what the organization is and what you're doing well today. 20% probably ought to be focused on what's the next incremental step to move something forward towards improvement or towards where you're heading in the future. And around 10% probably needs to be focused on what needs to be happening now that's going to allow for those bigger step changes. And so, that might include looking at what the investment strategy needs to be around that, or really setting time aside to vision around that. But I think that 70-20-10 split, and just getting comfortable that there needs to be some of all of those, but it's probably somewhere in that order of magnitude is where I think a lot of organizations can go wrong. They're too much focused on just what it is today, or they're way off focused on what it's going to be in the future and not serving whoever their constituents are currently. That's probably a pretty good rule of thumb.
Is it, listening to both of you describe those pieces for industry and for K-12, is it fair to say we're evolving or we're redefining what a consultancy or what a consultant is and does for their clients? Are we changing what that means for people and their perception of it as we do this work? To me, it's more of a holistic, all-encompassing type of service as opposed to I'm coming in to fix just this and help you with just this. But I'm truly invested in the totality of the health of your organization. Is that where we're continuing to evolve as part of Anser Advisory?
That's what we aspire to be doing for sure. And I think it sort of summed up by we're not interested in a transactional relationship, right? The type of relationship we want to have is as a trusted advisor. We want to be there to help whatever it may be, whenever it may be, however it may come about. I think a lot of consultants currently probably don't view the role in that way. I think it becomes more transactional in nature.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. And here, just from my personal experience, obviously in school districts, you're coming across a lot of service providers for a lot of different things. And my wife had made a remark. It's interesting that there's been a handful who, through that experience, have become your friends. Like, that's odd that they're your friends. Like, you mess with them, like you know.
Well, they do say the superintendent's job's a lonely one, right?
It can be very lonely. But that's an unusual, it's way more transactional the majority of the time. And to me, that's a big piece for me, because at the end of the day, all I really wanted to know is, can I trust this person that's trying to help me out of this jam? I mean, do I trust you? And when I tell you something that's going to leave me vulnerable, are you going to help me fix it? Mm-hmm. And when you find that, you won't leave that, because when you're in the thick of it and you're trying to decide what's the next step and all of my constituents that I've got to try to make happy, that's a huge burden. And you're trying to do it with what I believe is the most precious thing is the future, kids. And I'll be honest with you, that is a big part of why I want to be a part of the team, because if I get an opportunity to run or to join a bullet train where, hey, I can't tell you how tomorrow's going to look, but I know it's going to be great and we're going to all do it together. Like, that's the most exciting thing, because you have an opportunity to grow, you have an opportunity to learn, but ultimately I still get to fulfill what I believe my mission is provide the best outcome for kids that I possibly can in whatever way that I can. So it is very refreshing and to hear and understand that y'all's mission is aligned with what I believe I'm here for. And you just don't get that. And I'm not trying to blow smoke, but that's an important piece. And that's a piece that's usually missing with every other component of how we do business in schools. And there's no reason why it has to be missing. And so I look forward to that piece and growing. Obviously we've got superintendents on and we like to tell our stories, but they're all people, and it's lonely, and you're trying to just do the best you can for your kids, and the people that help you are very important in that process. Let's switch gears. I want to have a little fun. How many points a game, I'm asking you, how many points a game do you think Bryan averaged? I have no idea. Basketball.
Well,
high school. Let's go high school. Let's go high school.
Thanks for clarifying the sport, because I might not have got that. I've got no idea. I
just get
6 points.
High school. I'm gonna go 17.
I think it's somewhere around there.
Yeah. Okay. How many? Let's see. I'm gonna ask you a question. Could you do an impression of Adam? No, you don't have to do it on camera if you don't want to, but I always like to ask.
I probably could do a really bad one. I'm not going to even try right now, but but I do accept that challenge, and at some point here, yeah, we'll do it.
Oh, that would be. Is that
Probably need to workshop it a little.
Is that team building 101?
Yeah, he's got to knock the Irish lilt off it to be more Scottish. Past experience, I think.